had something. I had something that I was hoping to discuss with LWAC, but it may be more prolonged than just a small window for public comment. So if I wanted to propose it, that get added to a future agenda, I would do that at the end of the meeting in the format that Tracy just mentioned.
I think you could suggest it now if you want.
Okay.
You could add something to the agenda now for another meeting, and the committee will decide it. I guess if the committee would vote on to see if that's an appropriate subject for the agenda.
Okay, so I have time to propose that right
Sure.
now. Okay,
Yeah.
so you know, I live on Lake Wyola, and I have had a couple of discussions with both the FERCog people and also Becky Torres and a few other people about, you know, the erosion control questions and the difficulty of the association to handle that financially, and then the problem that the town would have with dealing with private roads and whatnot. And what I'm interested to do is to see if LWAC would have any role in trying to help, well, at the moment, it's me and a few other people, do some work on whether there can be a public-private partnership.
So I have a question for you. I lost my button somewhere last night.
I'm not sure if people are hearing me or not, because someone's talking about buttons.
No, we're hearing you. We're hearing you.
Okay, so anyway, I would like to explore that with LWAC, and I have a couple of case studies that we could use as examples. So, so that's what I'd like to propose, that there's a topic of exploring public-private partnerships in dealing with erosion and stormwater runoff into the lake.
Okay.
The second thing I have is smaller, which is that I have sent a number of emails to LWAC this past week, or actually the last 10 days, with some updates of things that I'm observing, but I have not gotten any response. So I'm wondering if there's a different way to communicate with the committee than through the LWAC email.
Well, I did see those emails, but you seem to be addressing, you seem that your questions were focused on the association. And I think George did respond to your
Yeah,
question.
he finally did respond. So I guess if someone is seeing them, maybe that could just be acknowledged, because I have no idea. This is the first I'm wondering that LWAC even saw that, or who on LWAC would have seen those. So if someone could just give me a heads up. Yeah, we saw that. This seems like an issue that
John's got a button for me. So he's gonna meet us there at noon.
Sorry.
That's next week's agenda. But I'll be better about the, hold on a second, Bob Douglas is joining us here. I will add that as an item for the next agenda.
Are you talking to me now, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay. One thing I forgot to do, so I'm going to backtrack here, is I didn't introduce everybody. So let me start off with, at the town hall, it's Walter and Howard are at the town hall, along with myself. Catherine is online, Mary, Dave Reed is online, Jennifer's online, Frank, Tracy, Bob Douglas just joined us. And I think I have everybody there. Eric, oh, I'm sorry, Eric. And again, if somebody else jumps onto the meeting, I will, I'll let them in. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Any other public comments? Good. All right. So next item on the agenda is item 4, which is a review of the minutes from the February 17th meeting. I sent those out toward the beginning of the week. Any comments or corrections or anything like this?
I'll make a motion that we accept it. We can discuss about that. So we should work.
No.
I'll second it.
Oh, I thought we'd have to discuss it. Then we accept it. There's no change in accepted.
Well, you vote, second it, and then there's discussion, then you vote on
Okay,
technically.
Oh,
Because
okay.
otherwise you're discussing a motion that hasn't been brought up.
okay, very good then. All right, so so Walter has a motion to accept the minutes. And Mary has seconded it, I think, I heard.
Now you can ask any comments.
Now, is there any comments or corrections or suggestions?
Looks good to me.
For those who hadn't seen it yet, there's a couple of nice pictures that Howard provided of the old and new trash racks, and you can kind of see what the difference is. They don't seem extensive, but they're enough to make a difference. So that's worthwhile to take a look at. I want to thank Howard for those pictures. All right, so I think we have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as written. And we'll do a vote on the committee. Howard, yes. Walter,
Yes,
Eric.
I'll abstain, it wasn't there, but I assume they're good.
Dave,
Except,
Catherine.
Yes.
And Mary, I know you're very are accepted.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll pass those off to Grace. Let her add to the website. Okay. Next item is just an update on what's going on with the notice of intent for both the drawdown and the dam repairs, and basically what's going on from a permitting perspective. On the very positive side, we have the contract between the town and GZA, which is a dam engineering company, but they do a lot of stuff, including dams, has been finalized, and so they're actually starting to work on the process now to get the necessary permits to the drawdown. They've already submitted a information request to the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species people to find out what is the protected species that's in the lake. I don't know if anyone here knows that what it is.
the only thing I know is the last time they went for permits like this, they no longer required the permits for the, I guess, the wood turtle and the bridal china, which was the big hang up when we did dam originally. And now, last time they did some work, they said that they weren't in that area anymore, so it still wouldn't hurt to check.
You know, so the plan right now is they have our information request out to the endangered species group and to let us know what the endangered species is, and then to have them determine if the drawdown will be any issue with that. And if it is, the plan is to go one way and apply it and work with the National Heritage to, figure out what can be done, if anything, to protect the species. And we should have a response by the next meeting. So it's 30 days from, when they submitted it. They're also starting to review all the existing documentations, and working with the waterway program, and so supposed to be starting to work with the Conservation Commission, to really understand the plan, develop a plan. A lot of this, there is no real set path right now. It all depends on what all these different organizations want to do for the drawdown permitting. And so they're going to go through one organization at a time, I guess, and just find out what everyone's views are on the drawdowns and the dam permitting. There also will be working on Chapter 91 licenses for the operation of the dam and for the dam itself. But there's a chance because the dam is so old that it may not need the license anymore. Maybe grandfathered in. So again, these are all questions that have to be addressed at the state level. Any questions or comments? So they will provide me an update once a month, and just what's going on there, and I'll keep everybody informed. All right. Next item 6 on the agenda is the dam maintenance repairs, and these are I'm really calling these maintenance repairs because they're just minor in nature. There's the dam is in good shape. It's not gonna, it's not gonna fall over, and everything's in good shape. At the last meeting, we decided to ask the select board for funding for $80,000 in the FY 25 budget to do those dam repairs. And it turns out that someone needs to complete a capital planning process to get the funding from the town. I can't just can't send a note saying, they can put this in the budget.
Gotta go through the whole process.
Yeah, I've never done that before, and I quite frankly don't know how to do that.
I can work with you on that,
Okay,
because I've gone through it several times.
you okay, that'd be great.
I do have one thing, it isn't with the dam itself, but the gatehouse, the roof is leaking so bad now that it's coming down on the wheel and across my desk, and I know, the building committee was down there last year, and they were talking about repairing it, but, it needs it badly right now, the roof especially.
We had, can that be included in the capital planning process? Or something in my mind that we can just,
I don't know, maybe it goes under the building, and then don't they have their own?
not a clue.
I don't either.
Does anyone have any ideas who would be responsible for getting a new roof on the gatehouse?
Well, my sense is the building committee would recommend it to the capital planning committee, and then the capital planning committee would presumably endorse it, and the town meeting would vote for it, and Bob, that's sort of the process, I believe.
I think, can't they, if the roof is leaking that bad now, can they make an emergency request to the town do we have any idea what it would cost to fix that before it causes any damage?
I don't know. I don't know how that works, to be honest.
An estimate
Frank,
done
you
yet,
might
right?
know. Frank got his hand up there. He might know. He's on the building committee.
Right?
How you doing? Yeah, we have proposed, we've actually mentioned at our meetings about getting it done. Now that we know it's leaking. We did ask for extra money from the capital planning, and it's going to be on the town warrant. And we do have some monies now that we can look at it. Being on Wednesday, I'll bring it up Wednesday to specifically Howard saying how bad it's leaking, and we'll put it in the forefront of our agenda on Wednesday's meeting and see what we can do. Because we have talked about having hiring a local person because of the size. The problem is what we have to do with the Conservation Commission and how close it is to everything else around there. If we need a building permit for it, that's going to be a problem. So
Got so bad this winter that it almost froze the wheel on me. I had a hard time breaking it loose.
okay. Well, maybe we can put a heavy duty tarp on it for now. And but we would talked about hiring a local guy to replace it because that was on our list. So I'll bring it up.
I think if we're gonna do it, you can just make a request for an emergency repair to Conservation Committee, and they'll usually fast track it.
Okay, good. Okay. I'll bring it up Wednesday at our next meeting.
That's as fast as I've ever seen town government work. Saturday to Wednesday, that's pretty good.
I would also suggest if you want to use a local guy, Paul Lyons would be willing to do that. He lives right up the road. It's a perfect job for him if he's not in Florida. Okay.
Okay, anything else about what's going on with the dam repairs? One question I have, and it's an academic question, I guess, is it practical to get something for 2025 at this point?
I'm not sure what the process, how far along the capital plan is in their process. And we can make inquiry,
Okay.
find out.
If
It's too late to even try to do anything if not.
we're getting
It doesn't take long to paper because we have all the figures, although they may want multiple votes or anything.
well, I think the intent here is to, there's two issues here. One is what's the scope of the repair work? And GZA was working on that. And so they'll be kind of managing that process. as our dam engineering company.
Okay.
So that'll help us a lot.
Right. Yeah.
And I've already sent them a note on that, and they're not delving into that quite yet, and I don't think we really need to at this point, because it's entirely possible we won't get funded till 26. Okay, any other questions or comments on dam repairs? Okay, thank you. Next item is, it's just, any further discussions we had about about the rock displacement contributing to the trash wreck clogging. Right now, I kind of sent a note off to GZA to have them look at that. But again, I think they're focusing right now, the funding that they have on the permitting process. That's, it's a much bigger task.
I did, after the last meeting, I did check and make sure that the anchors that I had made to the buoys, they were still at the fire station. So I have those in my possession now. So as soon as it warms up a little bit, we'll probably make time with Howie and John and go down and deploy the buoys. So, and maybe just an extra sign saying, you know, no swimming, fishing, admittance, whatever, in the area, you know, marked area. That would keep, you know, if in fact it was people walking there and knocking, you know, accidentally knocking, displacing the rocks, that it would at least keep them out of that area.
Hopefully.
Do we have to do anything about making any recommendations or anything related to signage? We had talked about, putting a sign like, on the gatehouse itself, it said no swimming around the buoys.
I think there is did we not, was it just painted or is there?
Just painted about the swimming and fishing in the designated area.
Yeah.
The trim around there, the area needs to be redone. The wording is still there on the concrete. But if you did put a sign up, you were talking about no swimming and no boating or something like that. I forgot what it was.
Usually doing something like a sign, in the past, be it emergency management team or the LWAC, is to, you know, come up with the wording and size and then vote on it. But yeah, who's funding it.
That's something that the emergency management team looks at.
I don't know how much the emergency management team is in existence or functioning right now.
Yeah.
But that was done in the past because it involved so many different agencies. That was able to all kind of work together, come up with that stuff. And it was usually funded through that. But the signs aren't really that expensive. And actually, there's a local company that, you know, the cemetery has been using now, and they're very good and reasonable. You can, yeah, straight it happen. You don't have to mail, send something off to them, online mail, hopefully it comes out right. Worry about shipping and all that.
So what's it, so what would be the appropriate course of action for?
Do you think we need a sign in addition to the paper?
Not right, no, if we might off the area, with the buoys. Just have to do like I have in the past. Ask them if they can read.
But at least it's there. If there's nothing there, they can say, no, say anything. I didn't know that. Now at least there's, you know, we have a buoy in the bank and saying no fishing, swimming within marked area. If we don't need another sign, I mean, the problem is with signs, you start getting too many signs and nobody reads any of them.
Yeah.
Any comments from other committee members or suggestions?
Are there no parking signs in place yet? Have they been updated when those are gonna go in?
I can find out. But at the moment, part of the ones that were there before. Not all of those are in here. But they're also gonna pay.
I'd be curious to see what the activity is like after those signs are in place. Maybe we don't make a decision until we see the result of that.
But there'll be no parking area once they get finished. Because like I started to say there, when they do the lines on the road, they're also gonna do white lines on the edge, so if anybody parks by the fence or along that area, they are gonna be in the traffic lane, there's no doubt. So, and they are gonna put no parking signs on both sides of the road.
Before we go on, not the end of the discussion, but it's 25 after, and so we might disappear for a few minutes when the generator kicks on. Right, so I think the decision here, the discussion says, does anyone think we need signs at this point? It sounds like everyone's kind of in agreement that we don't need to put any additional signs other than the no parking signs. And and David suggested that we just wait and see what happens with the no parking signs and buoys.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think that's the best course.
And if you need any help putting the buoys in, feel free to ask.
Just, you know, Tracy does have it.
Tracy, you have a comment, a brief comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in a discussion after our last meeting, when it was brought up about the potential causes for the rocks in the trash catch, that and it seemed very logical to me, is that it may well be in addition, or the actual cause would be the wake boats, because they would be eroding the shoreline.
Okay, fair enough, that's a comment.
Yeah,
All right, thank you very much.
but also the new trash rack should go like the old one up above and hold those rocks in place like it used to.
Yeah, I think when you look at the pictures, it's pretty clear what the problem is, how to correct the problem.
Right.
And you just have to modify the trash rack, so that's like the historic one,
Right,
with a little bit wider.
the old timers knew pretty well what to do.
If someone knew what they were doing back in the 50s or 40s or whatever it was. Right, excuse me. Next item on the agenda, are we all done with that item? I think there are a couple of action items that we'll follow up on. Item 8 is an update on the watershed-based plan from FERCog, and they're still waiting to hear back from Mass DEP. And so from their perspective, nothing's happened yet. They're still waiting for Mass DEP to either approve the plan or come back with recommendations. Okay. Any questions about the FERCog plan? Or comments? Okay. Item 9 items that cannot reasonably be anticipated prior to the meeting. Any new agenda items or any other items we want to discuss? Okay, Bob Douglas has his hand up. Bob, go ahead.
Muted, Bob.
Bob, you're muted.
My wife finds me much more interesting when I'm muted. I had a question for you. I know that there was a report of potholes in one of the roads. I know that there was filling of those potholes that went on recently. Can you tell me just a little bit about that?
I'm not familiar with any of that work. Is anybody else?
It was done on Shore Drive. Evan, in his good graces, came over with his tractor and scraped down the potholes, and I believe put a little bit of the fill in. And it held up pretty good even after that hard rain. But that was the work that was done, Bob.
Okay, great. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. So you said there was a rain that followed that work?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a rainy year. So, yeah, there was rain that followed that, and so they appear to be a little bit more beat up.
So some of that fill washed away. Is that right?
The fill always washes away.
Where does it go, David?
I would say a lot of it gets pulled up around the pothole itself. It's a very heavy trap that he puts in there. I'm not going to suggest in front of the committee that all that fill goes directly into the lake because I don't think that's true. A lot of it ends up on the front yards of people who abut the road because that's where it gets washed into. So it's a pretty decent culvert system on Shore Drive. And actually, there's a construction project that went on, and they put in, as they were probably required to, Mary probably knows more than this than I do, a catch basin that is designed to catch that fill before it goes into the lake. So, I don't think it all pours into the lake, Bob. That's just my opinion.
All right, I
So
appreciate it. Thank you, David.
So Bob, the part of the problem is the culverts don't get cleaned out. And then people do repairs like Evan did. However, I'll say that after Evan did that, it rained again. And because of the way it was filled, I now have a 12-foot, 6-inch deep trench in front of my house that the rain washed down because it didn't get into the culvert. So some of these are pictures that they've been taken, and I know Jennifer has some more that she wanted to talk about too, but it's been a huge problem with the potholes, a big part of which is that even for the new thing that was put in, if the gutters aren't cleaned out, it doesn't do any good. And there needs to be a plan to do that because there's no plan or to.
So thank you, Mary. And just as a quick follow-up, so you have a 12-foot trench, is that what you said?
It dug out a whole area in front of my house that then created a whole nother way for the water to go down. And the more water went down, the deeper it got.
And where did that water go?
It went straight down, all the way down the road, dig in the ditch till it made potholes.
And then it stayed there, or did it flow off of the roadway?
Now I went down and had to go dig trenches to get it into the gully, into the culvert.
Into the culvert. Okay, and where does it go from the culvert?
It goes down through and then into the under the road into the new thing that was put on Donna's west property and into the lake.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks, Mary. I appreciate it.
Bob, I highly suggest you come down and take a look at that catch basin that was put in. Like I said, I'm assuming because it's new construction, they were required to put that in. If more of those were installed around the lake, that would do a lot of good, I believe.
I'd like to do that, David. But I
Come take a look at it.
I certainly wouldn't want to step on somebody's property without their permission. Whose property is that on?
No, you don't even have to. It's right on the road. You just come by and look at it and see what they did. And I encourage anyone in the group to come by and walk around and look at the culvert systems of Shore Drive and Pine Drive. They're not perfect. I'm surprised that they held up as well as they did. Mary's situation with her culvert, somehow it got blocked. When that happens, someone has to go down there with a pole and unblock them. I don't know whose responsibility that's supposed to be, but we had a similar instance with a private homeowner whose culvert got blocked, and they called Clarkie in, and Clarkie came down and unplugged the culvert. So did they pay Clarkie to do that? I have no idea. Did they call the association? Did the association pay Clarky to do that? I don't know. But, you know, I've been living here for 20 years, and this is how we've always managed the road.
I appreciate the feedback. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman.
So Conservation Committee is gonna come down and walk that and take a look, because a lot of that, when it gets plugged up, the thing goes, instead of into culverts, it goes directly into the lake, and there's been a big problem with that.
Is Conservation Committee, Mary, going to look at the property in which the waterfall comes down and walk the source of that erosion at the same time? Because that's a huge issue for that property owner, for the property owner across the street. That road is constantly compromised by that water. I'm guessing it's coming off of Dave McKay's property and probably coming off of Wendell Road. And since Dave McKay's property is unmanaged, that's why that happens. But I'm hoping to look at that.
It's actually been determined to be an intermittent stream that comes down. We have looked at it multiple times. But again,
Okay.
if the culvert was cleaned out, it would go in the culvert both ways and keep the water off the road. The problem
Well, we've
is, again,
seen
it
it,
comes.
Mary, when the culvert is working perfectly fine, and that water comes down so hard, it still goes over the road. That's why the neighbors have put that berm up there to prevent that from happening. So
Again, like I said, if the culvert has never been cleaned out, that's part of why the culvert got made on Donna's property, was to go back and clean it out. But even today, under the road where it needs to go is totally blocked. It's something we've sent to LWA from the Conservation Committee multiple times when we were walking through there, is that they needed to go send somebody down and clean the culverts out. Then that water
the culvert that takes the water off that property is not blocked. That water still overflows the road, and the culvert functions fine.
Well, you can go take a look. You can go take a look at it, Dave. I just took pictures. It is blocked, and we're going to look at it from the Conservation Committee again. But it's blocked. That's why it keeps doing it.
And is there going to be anything done about the intermittent stream coming down the hill?
They can't change the intermittent stream. Regulations are you can't divert. You're not supposed to divert or do anything with an intermittent stream.
So when the property owner bought that property, she brought that problem.
Yes, and she knows that it's an issue. We've had conversations with her too.
Okay, thanks, Mary.
Okay, we can move on to Jennifer. That's okay with everybody?
Thank you. So we're part of that system too on Pine Drive, and this is exactly the case study that I wanted to bring to LWAC, and also to clarify my earlier comment and Mark's, which is, while there are road issues, it is not just a Lake Wyola Association issue to look at, because the drainage issues are going right into the lake. And I have photos that can document that. It does involve this intermittent stream. And Dave, it's the opposite problem there, which is not that the culvert appears to be blocked. It appears to not be sized properly to handle all that water that's coming down that stream. There were
It's never designed to handle an intermittent stream. That's why, Jen.
Well, there's more to that. So hang on one second. So there was a drainage system that was constructed there in 2019, I think. And because there hasn't been maintenance there, so though that drainage system is compromised, it's non-functioning, and the retention pool is filled and is now overflowing into the cove in 3 places and dumping, it's gouging out the lake bottom, and also creating 2 additional kind of haphazard drainage ditches, because the ditch isn't got the capacity, and is narrowing our roadway in some places by like 5 feet. And it was already a narrow roadway. And we have had issues with trucks saying, I don't think I can get down there. So this is why I don't want to necessarily debate anything right now, but it's a complex ecosystem that involves properties that are not even part of what the Lake Association's responsibility is. But I would think that LWAC in an advisory capacity and interested in lake quality could provide some advice or guidance on how to get the town and the private road owners to work together and maybe get some attention for larger capital projects. So I just wanted to give that input as you consider a longer conversation about this. But the situation on Pine is the opposite. It's not a blocked culvert. It's a culvert that's working too well almost, but it's having impacts on the road, serious ones, not just for the lake, but for transit. Thank you.
Comments from the committee members on how to proceed?
Yeah, Jen, that's a very good observation for Jen. Like I said, I want to reiterate, I've never seen that culvert blocked. What I see is it unable to handle the amount of water that is coming down that hillside. And the association did do that work. It seemed to do well for a while, but that intermittent stream has gotten progressively worse. And Mark, I think I've sent you pictures of that over the years. I've sent you videos of that. I think you know what I'm talking about.
And that's why, in recognizing about this, that it throws the maintenance issue and the schedule for maintenance into a different light. In other words, cleaning out drainage ditches once every 3 or 4 years is not the trick, right? It has to be done probably twice a year at this point. And there needs to be some kind of more comprehensive issue with how to handle that much water, because that's probably not going to change. And I don't know what that looks like. And that's why we need kind of like a task force, I think. So this is why I'm hoping that a discussion can get pulled together with this group to see what next steps would be. Thank you.
I know in the past, LWAC has tried to get funding from the town and work with the town. But the town has been kind of adamant about not putting anything, funding or resources into private roads. I like the idea of a task force, and I think it's worthwhile to investigate that. In our discussions with Burkhart, they feel that there is an avenue to get public-private funding together, and they're waiting on Mass DEP to approve their watershed-based plan, which looks at the entire watershed for the Lake Wyola area, and so I believe that there is a mechanism that, based upon conversations with Burkhart, that there could be a public-private partnership, and I think that's really what we need. And as we're talking, we're talking lots of money to do it right, and to really design systems that are going to be resilient for the long term, and not just building potholes and getting shovels up. I think there's more to it than that.
Mark,
Any other comments?
I've had my hand up for a while, Mark. Can I go?
No, is this part of this discussion, Tracy?
Say that again?
This is part of this discussion?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so the system that's being talked about was the system that when I was the roads committee co-chair and on the LWA board. That's the system that I worked on. And the intermittent stream spot, it's supposed to be split. The catch basin that Donna West just replaced, she's basically replacing an old basin on her new property, and then just diverting it to the side of her property rather than a direct shot, because that's where her house is going to go. What has happened is that drainage ditch that the intermittent stream comes down into, it's no longer splitting, and it's going almost all the intermittent stream is going to Pine Drive. It was supposed to be splitting so that half was going to the drainage basin on Donna West property, and the other half was supposed to go down Pine Drive. That's no longer happening. It looks like the intermittent stream just decide, they take their own route and we've had a lot of rain, so it's carved out a different avenue than it was sort of going before. We've talked about putting a T there, a culvert T as opposed to just a pathway. And perhaps that might be the solution there. But that catch basin on Donna West property is only handling a very small amount of water from the road. It is not like a road catch basin. There's drainage. There's big, long sections of road on Shore Drive that don't even have drainage ditches. And so so the roads are the drainage, which is part of the reason that there's so many potholes. So that section, clearly needs to be tightened up and cleaned out. It was put in 2019. There has been no clean out of the system at all. So that's, it's been 5 years and at this point, because everything's going down Pine, it's now no longer even able to handle it overflowing into the lake. And like Jennifer says, taking out Pine Drive, which is the reason we had to do the project in the first place, because Pine Drive was being eroded. So.
All right, so where do we go from here? Any suggestions for the committee members? We want to do a subcommittee to look at these issues. We have to kind of have this discussion on an ongoing basis. And unfortunately, we are an advisory committee and we don't have funds to say, let's do something.
Is this particular issue that is being brought up now, is that covered under the watershed based plan?
Yep, that's my question too.
That is all the roads around the lake.
And the whole watershed area. It should be in that plan.
There should be that plan, and that plan is to get funding to come up with a design. I think it's a 319 grant or a 60 something grant, to come up with a design for the roads around around the lake, to correct the problem. We did look at Bob's suggestion. We did look at an estimate for just the west side of the lake, and the design. I forgot what the number was. Maybe it was 35,000, something like that. It's a significant amount of money just for one section of the lake. Let's see, Mary, you have your hand raised.
Muted.
So yes, it may be in the whole watershed plan, but right now, the issue is really maintenance. Somebody needs to go in, clean out the gutters, clean out the culverts. It's no plan or whatever you put in place isn't going to work if there isn't a routine plan to help those culverts stay free of debris and keep the water flowing. And right now it's creating a huge problem. So, they may eventually fix all of this with that plan, but right now we've been trying to encourage the LWA to come up with a plan to go through and help clean out all of those things. And I think that's what Tracy's talking about. Is there a way to get LWAC to help or ask LWA to come to the meeting too, to talk about what's a plan that we can do right now to clean all this out in a maintenance plan until such time as it's redesigned.
I think that's an interesting idea, is to invite, someone from the LWAC to our board of directors to our meeting and have this discussion. So they're really the ones that are going to either hire someone to clean out the gutters or create a volunteer group, which is what we do on the west side to kind of fill in, kind of maintain the roads.
I will remind the committee that Art Keene is a member of the LWAC Association. I believe it's the second vice president. So we already have an LWA president on the committee. So why don't we wait until Art comes back? We can discuss this next week when Art's here and see what he knows already is happening, what discussions may already be happening that we may be unaware of. That's why we have an LWA member on the committee.
And Art wasn't able to join us today.
Art wasn't able to join us today, so I'm sure he would be able to add some color to this discussion.
And I understand or I sense from an email from George to Jennifer, that the association is working on plans to, maintenance plans right now. Jennifer, did you have that sense from George's email?
Oh, I'm not.
No.
Okay, good. I'm unmuted. What I got, well, verbatim, what he said is that he was certain that the drainage ditches on Pine would be put on the 2024 list of things that need to be done. The board has to approve that. And then the question is, well, what's the extent of what's going to be done? And I just want to underline what Mary said, that Lake Wyola Association owns the roads and definitely has responsibility for making them passable and maintaining them. No question. However, these issues that we're talking about are an ecosystem-wide problem. So if they go in there, have a contractor who goes in with a backhoe and creates a deeper culvert and empties out that retention pool in which there is a lot of debris, and probably the whole project will need COMCOM involvement to even do it. Where does that debris get put, et cetera? Because it's an ecosystem-wide problem, it's a town consideration too, because the quality of the lake and the source of the problem isn't on Lake Wyola property. So I keep trying to make a separation between maintenance required, they toss the football back and forth to each other. Is this Lake Wyola issue? Is this a town issue? And it just gets log jammed. Well, it's really two separate things. And I think that, yes, George hopefully will prevail. The board will approve it. It will be a temporary fix, of course, just like others have said. So we still need the board to approve it. And my sense is that given 5 years have gone by with no maintenance, the expense of doing this current maintenance is going to be above what they're used to paying. So, it's that old thing, this deferred maintenance ends up being repairs that are not affordable, and then the whole thing just continues to get worse. So no, I wouldn't say that my sense was that George was going to take care of this. It was that they're going to attempt to get some money to alleviate the current symptoms. I hope that was clear. I'm sorry if I went on too long, but it's complicated.
Okay, let's see, I'm not sure who had their hand up first, Bob or Tracy, but I'll ask Wyola Tracy first this time. Since I started with Bob last time. Tracy, go ahead.
I actually was just going to comment on what Jennifer had to say in terms of it be a system-wide issue, because the properties all around Lake Wyola is mostly owned by the town. And the other thing that Tamsin said at our walkthrough for the FERCOG walkthrough, I think that was last August, she was commenting when we were in the parking lot about how they don't generally deal with situations at lakes where the roads are owned by a private entity as opposed to being owned by the town. And I raised my hand and I said, well, what if the roads were open to the public because the owners were 501c3 public charity, and therefore their roads have to be open to the public? And she said, oh, that could make a difference. So I think we really need to go down that avenue, because as a public charity, the roads are, I know there's still some signage up that says that they're not, but they are. In addition, they have to be open to the public because the town plows the roads, and that's based on chapter 40. It's on the town plowing letter. Towns can only plow roads that are accessible to the public. So I think that needs to be highlighted, because that may be our key to getting this FERCOG report to actually start, bearing some fruit. But that's going to be a long time in coming. And so I think that it is important. I know Art is on the committee, but I think that other LWA board members should be encouraged to come because they're the decision makers, and we really don't, as just even as LWA members, we don't really have an avenue to have any discussions like this that we're having today, which is awesome, because we don't get to go to we don't get to go to the board meetings, we don't see the minutes, we don't know what's going on. We have 2 meetings in the summer, and it barely any room for discussion about anything. So it's just not, it's not working. The whole way this whole thing is it's just not working. So I think that we should encourage more board members to come.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you being generous with the time. I know that LWAC is kind of an interface between the town and LWA, and we've got a selectman, Eric Stocker, on board to kind of be a keep the town in touch with what's going on. And one thing I'd like to ask is if I could have a future agenda item. There is a set of grants called the MVP grant, Mass Vulnerability Plan, and they have considerable dollars at the my full-time job. We've gotten in about $1 million, and our next ask will be probably about $5 million. And unlike other grants, they're not just for municipal roadways. They can be work can be done on private roadways in order to prevent runoff and things like that. So I think that is a pathway that the town may be well advised to go. And if I could just get 5 minutes on a future agenda, I'd be grateful.
I just want to follow up real quick with Bob. I worked with, I forget who the town member was. We did do an MVP grant request. Unfortunately, it was denied. So we have made that attempt. It doesn't mean we can't make it again, though. I just wanted to let you know that.
Sure, yeah, no, and I understand the MVP was looking at solar projects and things like that. It certainly is multifaceted, but it can be used for drainage issues like we've had and we'll continue to have at the Lake Wyola watershed.
Our request focused on the town-wide water runoff issues. That was our MVP request, and the state just chose other more what they felt were pressing projects.
You know, that's always the case with grants. It's kind of a crapshoot, but I do think this is something that has gone on a long time and does have the attention of the estate, and I think it's probably worth making a concerted play for this particular area. And really, that's all I wanted to say.
So Bob, your request for an item for the agenda is about applying for an MVP grant.
Discuss MVP grant. I think would be appropriate.
Good, thank you.
I'll try to get some more information on what, I mean, I know that this town is applying for MVP grants. And I know that we've, as David suggests, we've had trouble getting MVP grants. I think more than once, I think maybe 2 times we've been denied. And I know solar, as you suggest, Bob, is one of the things that has been talked about because that's something we haven't tried, frankly. But I think this would be a great thing, and yeah, we should consider it. And I would also just point out this whole issue, as was probably all of us know, this whole issue of public-private partnerships and whatever. This has been going on as long as I've lived in Shutesbury, probably before that. I mean, because it's an issue that is hard legally to deal with, and that's all. It's just been sticky. It's all. I'm not saying it can't be done, or we shouldn't try to do it. We should, but it's tough.
Yeah, totally understood, and that's one thing that was attractive to the MVP with me is that most grants are available to towns, but this one is available to go on both town and private land.
No, that's great. That's good to know.
Bob, I have a copy of what we submitted, so I will send that to you, just so you can look at it and see what was done in the past.
Oh,
Yeah, send it to me too, David, if you would, please.
I shall, Eric. I shall.
Can you send it? Can you send it to everybody? Dave?
There we go.
Sure. Yeah, I can
go.
send it to everyone.
Very grateful. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. It's at work, so I won't get to it until Monday.
Okay,
So Mark,
Uh,
can I make a
who's,
comment on that?
Absolutely, Mary.
So I know we go back and forth on the issue of public and private and the state. What we forget, and I do want to point out that, the town is responsible for maintaining, for emergency purposes and everything, passable roads, private or not private. But I would also point out that everybody here around the lake pays taxes to the town. Even LWA on their building and on the road pays taxes to the town. So I would think that out of that should come some kind of partnership where the town shares with LWA getting these maintenance things done. Because otherwise I would contend that I'm not getting the same benefit from paying my taxes as other people in the town of Shutesbury are. So just another thing to add in.
There are other private roads in town, just so you know, just to throw that out there, that if we did it, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but it's a can of worms. That's all I'm saying.
I think Jennifer was next.
I just wanted to, and I'm just going to throw this out here from a total newbie, and it might be a completely naive thing. However, it's come to my mind when we have these log jams like this, or it's just understandable that the town would be reluctant to get involved on private property, and the private nonprofit property needs the town and the watershed issues, etc. I don't know whether our elected representatives can be helpful in breaking log jams or accessing these grants, and maybe there's a way that we could bring in other partners, and I don't know. Yeah, basically we're doing my agenda item that I proposed right now. So if you guys are busy, you can take that off, or we could continue the discussion. But I don't know whether Shutesbury has a good relationship with its elected representatives and how that whole system works to ask for help. But it has, in previous situations that I've been in, that has occurred, and it often is very useful. So.
Thank you. Tracy, and I think we'll wrap it up after Tracy.
Yeah, so I'll just put both things in just to continue on this topic, and then I had another topic I wanted to put in the agenda. I just wanted to remind you, Mark, that at the last meeting we discussed that Gazette article about the grants that are available just specifically for this type of a thing. I can't remember what they were called, but you were going to get that article out to everybody. I sent it to you. I sent it to LWAC. I think I sent it to the select board too, Eric, so you probably have access to it. It was like 3 weeks ago, a Gazette article, and it was focusing on over a rattlesnake gutter. And it was an article about grants that are being made available through the state for specific issues of private dirt road washout, private and public dirt road stormwater issues. So that seems like a really good thing to be looking at. The thing that I would like to have put on the, and I just did want to make a comment to Eric about the roads. I really appreciate today hearing, like I hear in the comments that you're making, Eric, you're starting to get this, and that you're thinking about, how the town can help. You seem to be open to that, and I really appreciate that. One of the things that I've been thinking about, and just what Mary was saying, is that even with the other roads, maybe it needs to be just everybody. If any townspeople are having to, any entities like Wyola Association, or even, homeowners association roads like Old Orchard, I think it's called. And then there's a couple others that are roads that don't have owners at all. They're very short roads with not a lot of people on them. So they're kind of a small category, but regardless, so there's nobody having to pay taxes on those particular roads. But it seems that some tax relief for Lake Wyola Association, just right now, maybe specifically on the roads, having to pay taxes like for a deficit piece of property doesn't seem very fair. So I don't know. I have a copy of a tax bill that breaks out the Lake Wyola taxes from, the building, the beaches and the roads. And if I recall, the tax dollars for the roads is the lowest amount because they don't have much value. But still, it's any little bit counts, and it can add up over a few years. And the other thing is, Mark, that I sent to
Oh, go ahead. I think you're changing subjects here.
I'm just want to add to because you said one more, and that I have an agenda item, and it's in an email that I sent you. You can just look at it.
Well, I'd like to summarize what I think what we think this road discussion is, just so that before we move off it. And it seems like we have sort of three action items here. One is to add to the agenda for next time, the idea of creating a task force. To look at alternate sources of funding, look at working with the town. And I'd like to add that as an agenda item for our next meeting, and for those who to consider who should be on that, and how that task force should be organized. So that's one item. I think I heard that we would like to have someone from LWA come and just talk about the maintenance plans that they're aware of right now. And just to give us an update of what the plan is for the next 6 months. And then the third item is, and this could maybe be handled by the task force, but Bob had the idea of looking more diligently at other sources of funding, specifically MVP grants. Does that seem like we got a reasonable summary of what we've discussed so far?
Yes, Mark, it does.
All right, so I'll contact LWA and Art, and we can all just ponder what the task force would look like. I know I cut Jennifer. Is this about the roads, or is this a new subject?
Yeah, no, it's about the road. Just one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's just one little thing. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay, I'll move on, I think.
Okay, Eric, this is just for you and for all of the people here regarding this question that comes up about all the public roads. And I just feel like at this point, it's really important to distinguish between issues on roads that are impacting a conservation and a watershed resource. And those roads, I think, should be treated differently than other private roads, because the impacts are different and they're more pervasive, and they're affecting, the integrity and the quality of this resource that we're all tasked with protecting. So I think that's one way to start to talk about the difference between some roads compared to other roads. And I just wanted to point that out. Thanks. I'm sorry to take up so much time.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I remember there was a town meeting, or I think it was a not a select board meeting, about whether or not to incorporate the roads down toward on the Leverett side by the dump down there. A lot of those roads are private roads as well, and it was a Donnybrook. I mean, there were like 100 people there screaming at each other. Oh, we're not doing it. Oh, yeah. So I'm just telling you, that's where I come from, saying it's a can of worms. It is a can of worms. But that's a very good point you're making.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that was a good healthy discussion about the roads. We have some good items, good agenda items, and tax we're ahead of it. Is there anything else? I think Tracy might have had something that she wanted to talk about, different subject.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying before, is I sent you an email. So what I did is I just wanted to take a look at the changing scopes of LWAC from when it was started into today. And there were 3 iterations. You sent me the most recent that was on in some minutes from 2017, because we had discussed this back in September, and I was trying to get the the originating document. And then recently you sent me an email that said that actually the scope was changed in 2017. It's never been put up on the website, so you might want to do that. But I think that we should compare and sort of look at what things were added, what things were removed, and is there actually, I just would like to discuss that, because I feel like, because the very first thing that was added to the 2017 one is to act as a liaison between the lake community and the town. And so this seems to be the lake community's main source of being able to speak. And so I just feel like that needs to be strengthened and encourage more people participating over here by maybe some reach out from LWAC. If that's, if that is the because it is the first function that you wrote in 2017, and I was very glad to see that. So I'd like to just review that. So I sent a document that has all three iterations of the purpose and then the makeup of the board and the changes that have happened. And then put that on as a discussion for ideas that people might have, that we might, switch things up, look at, what's working, what's not working, that kind of thing.
Okay, so for the committee members, do we want, I said, conversation among the committee members here, we want to reevaluate the scope of the committee. Now open it up for discussion.
I mean, I don't know if that's necessary, but I don't think it hurts to listen as an agenda item. Does that make sense, Mark?
I'm asking you guys.
Yeah,
I
think I agree with Dave.
I don't think that the scope of the committee needs to be necessarily reviewed, but I would like to hear Tracy's ideas, because I could be wrong.
Okay, anyone not want to move to discuss the scope, change to the scope?
Times are changing,
All right, so
we make sure we don't go against, I'm not sure how this was originally formed by the town and what the charters were out there, who sets the charters, is it us or the town? And so, I mean, to be discussed later.
I don't think that the original charter is relevant anymore because
Yeah.
it's not accurate. It's,
Right.
I think we should discuss the current scope that the select board approved. And if we need to modify that, that's.
So that's where it is,
Yeah.
the select board still has to approve any changes.
Any change in scope.
Yeah,
gotta go
okay.
through the select board.
All right.
And I wasn't necessarily suggesting that the scope would be changed. I'm just wanted to show what the changes were and how there's some questioning about where certain things fell off. For example, in the original scope, it said that a road maintenance plan would be created, and I've never seen one. So I was hoping that maybe somebody could check and see, like, was there one? What did that ever happen? Because that was kind of the key part of it was initially an ad hoc committee. But I do think that we might want to look at the makeup of the membership. That's the area that I think some changes might be helpful to be able to get more comprehensive input and to get the lake to be looked at from a broader perspective, not just as this sort of separate community that's separate from Shutesbury. Because the more we get people in town interested in trying to protect the lake, then the more support we maybe be able to get for capital campaigns that LWA might propose. Because people want to protect the lake, but right now we're just sort of like the separate, treated sort of like we're this separate entity from the rest of the town. And so, there's not enough people over here to raise enough money. There's just not. So.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda item for next year. Next month.
Next meeting.
Next meeting. Any other open items? On a positive note, I hope everyone noticed that the generator didn't come on the street.
Yeah.
So either the generator is broken or they changed the clock. So
They changed the time. Yeah.
It was Tuesday. So.
Maybe it's coming out of that.
Oh, daylight savings
Daylight
time.
savings time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, at 10:30.
That's what we got. Okay,
We're good right now.
That 30 is beautiful. We never go past that 30. Any other questions, comments?
How about the motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. That was the most productive LWAC meeting I've ever been to. That was awesome. Bye.
Have a good
one. Bye, guys. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Welcome.